Good evening, everyone. What's going on? This is Chris around the ATL. This is the Atlanta Falcons 2025 NFL Draft Post Show. And we're going to get started in a minute, but I got to go ahead and throw it out there. This is not going to be a usual show for us tonight. Usually, I'm pretty good at what's the word? Faking it till you make it on certain show nights in regards to what might have happened before the show. I'm not going to be able to do that tonight. So please excuse me as I get through this particular episode. Also, I'm not sure if my co host will be able to make it. So I am going to try to stall a little bit until he comes in because I want him to be a part of this particular episode as we get ready to talk some of the players. But as I mentioned before, tonight is the Atlanta Falcons post-draft show. We do two episodes a year when it comes to the Atlanta Falcons draft. We do the actual show before the draft, and then we do a show after the draft to discuss who we actually got. Now, if you saw last week, you got a chance to see us live react to the trade of the Atlanta Falcons to get back into the first round and making that move. So again, these are pretty cool times because again, normally we wouldn't see things like this, and there's a myriad of reasons why. We can talk about that. Almost forgot. Let me post this in the comment section. So if you do get a chance to partake in tonight's show, please join us on the YouTube channel there, or you might be watching off the Facebook page, off the IMTN Worldwide Radio Facebook channel. And again, tonight's not going to be a usual show. Like I said, usually I can fake it till I make it, but not tonight. It was a pretty long day, and I'm doing this particular episode because we had scheduled it, and we want to make sure that we get it out there. Again, though, I am waiting for my co-host to see if he responds back. So let's do this. I'll get a little bit started, but I am going to try to stall just a little bit. So again, as I mentioned, really cool time to be a Falcons fan because really for the first time ever, we watched a draft actually address needs instead of just getting people. And we know that is the history of the Falcons per the record, per conference championship appearances, per lack of Super Bowls. Okay. The teams that do a great job in piecing together a team, they have the rings, they have the wares. The ones that don't. It's very simple. You protect the quarterback, you build the trenches, you get your skill positions, and you do that not just with the draft, but free agency and adequate trades. But again, our history on all three of those fronts have been terrible. Also, just for the fact that, guess what? The last time the Falcons made the playoffs was 2017. That streak was supposed to have been broken last year, and we all know how that turned out. We had one game difference in victories and still missed the playoffs again. So, could the franchise get away with doing bad again as far as their decisions? Now, I will say this certain things you can't control. Health is one of those, right? And so again, health reared its ugly head again in regards to who's on the field, who's able to perform, who's able to help the team. So again, what happened? Depth hurt the Atlanta Falcons again. So that's another reason why this draft was so important, especially for certain positions. So we're going to talk about that tonight. One thing I will repeat, the Falcons have been, and I mentioned this last week, have been last or next to last, bottom of the barrel in sacks for basically a decade, especially the last 5 to 6 seasons. I mean, they were either second to last or last in sacks. Also, though, turnovers. We don't get interceptions. Okay. So that's another thing that we need to look at overall. We'll talk about that when we get into the depth chart a little bit as well. But again, after, who's that? Okay, that's not him though. After again being last in sacks for a decade, the Falcons draft an edge rusher in the first round, then double down, make some trades, and draft a second edge rusher. To bolster the cornerback room, Falcons draft two talented players that are versatile, and then with their last pick, they draft a center. So that way, again, we have depth. We know who's our starting center right now, but it'll be good to have someone who can play certain, multiple positions on the line. Now, one of the other things I want to say as I continue to stall to see if my co-host is going to make it before I actually officially get started with this episode around the ATL, make sure you subscribe to the IMTM Worldwide Radio page if you're watching from that page right now. Subscribe. Take a second, subscribe. Take a second, subscribe. It's scrolling on the bottom. It's telling you what to do. Subscribe to the IMTM Worldwide Radio YouTube page. But the other thing was the grade of the Atlanta Falcons draft. Now, most outlets, most journalists, most shows and things of that nature have given the Falcons pretty decent grades. Okay. But you have this one guy with the bad hair, again, just throwing all kind of craziness out there. And it's hilarious because, again, if the Falcons had drafted another running back or a wide receiver and a tight end, I had someone tell me they made a mistake and they should have got this tight end or whatever. And Pitts ain't this. Look, I'm not the biggest Pitts fan, but as far as a need, it's not a need. He's still on the roster. He's still hopefully pretty decently good. Maybe this will be his breakout season. Maybe, I don't know. But that wasn't an actual need. It just isn't. There's no way unless he was hurt for the season, then tight end would have been a need. Maybe still, right? Shoot, use Tyler Algier as a tight end if you got to, but it wasn't really an immediate need. Okay. The pass rush and pass defense was the immediate need. But again, these grades I saw C grade, C minus, and things of that nature. And I heard ESPN radio talking about how they're scratching their heads at the Falcons draft, and I'm like, this just proves again how much disdain outlets and sports journalists, TV shows, and things of that nature hate the Atlanta Falcons, but also people who don't even watch. People don't even look at records. People don't even look at the stats and see the Falcons are last or dead, next to dead last in sacks every year. We can't get pressure on the quarterback, and we give up so much on offense because we simply can't touch the quarterback. And it's strange that you use two picks to get two pass rushers. Isn't that amazing to anybody that actually was said out loud like several times? I don't know. So I think I have stalled long enough, and really I have a little bit of a time frame here to get this done tonight. So what we might do, I don't know, I might redo this whole show because again, this is a tough show for me to do this evening, but we're going to get it done. Actually, I'm at the point now where George, my co-host, is supposed to actually. So let's see if I can wing it a little bit because I didn't plan for this, and I still hadn't heard from him as of yet. So hopefully everything is cool. But I'm sure something must have happened. So let's go ahead and get started. So again, let me make some adjustments here. Like I say, I had this planned out. Things you got to change on the fly sometimes, right? And again, I am very excited about this draft. You just have to believe me. And again, we might redo this show later date. But tonight was the night that I scheduled it, so we're going to get it done. But I am excited. It just might not look it. I can't fake it tonight, y'all. So the Atlanta Falcons had the number 15 pick in the draft. And if I can get this to work, there we go. All right, cool. So let's see if I can organize this on the fly. And yeah, here we go. With the 15th pick, 15. Okay, I will do this over. Again, this is live, y'all. Hopefully, people who do end up watching this live, just excuse me. People who watch it after the fact, hopefully you enjoy it, get a kick out of it. But we're talking Falcons football. So if you're a Falcons fan, again, subscribe to the IMTN Worldwide Radio YouTube page. So with the 15th pick of the NFL draft, the Atlanta Falcons had someone actually fall into their lap, somebody who technically shouldn't really have gone to the 15th pick. Who is that person? I'll let all right go through. His name is Jalen Walker, defensive edge, University of Georgia. And I do have the image just to make sure everybody knows who he is because you need to learn who he is. There he is. All right. Mr. Jalen Walker. And this is one of the first times that the Atlanta Falcons, since I believe my co host Jordan Jackson said Akeem Dent was the last time the Atlanta Falcons picked a UGA player in the first round. So here's the thing about that it is a monumental occurrence for the fact that the Georgia Bulldogs win a lot of games and national championships. They're used to winning. It's national championship or bust. So why would you be so abhorrent from getting players from a team that's in your state as an NFL franchise? I am not sure. But all the other teams that have gotten UGA players over the last couple of years, especially the Philadelphia Georgia Eagles, have benefited from those picks, correct? So we don't know what Mr. Walker is going to do in the future, but we have a decent idea, I think, right? So let's talk about Mr. Jalen Walker just a little bit. Again, I am going a little bit out of the order that I had planned in regards to certain things because my co-host didn't make it, and I wasn't able to be here. So I'll just add what I was going to talk about on my end for Mr. Jalen Walker. So first of all, again, what has been the Falcons' biggest issue for a decade plus? And I actually on last week's episode, I actually went and showed you year by year. Here's the team in sacks. Here's the team in sacks. Here's the teams in interceptions. Here we are. What are we not doing here? How come we can't pair up AJ Terrell with anybody? Okay. If you did that, guess what? Defensive line benefits. You had a better defensive line, guess what? The cornerbacks benefit. But again, the Falcons just can't ever seem to do it right. Here's one. They've done it right. All right. So one, he puts pressure on the quarterback consistently. That's a huge word. It's not just one snap out of 75 snaps, and he gets that one sack for the whole season, it seems like. You have players on the Atlanta Falcons that have 3 or 4 sacks for the entire season. You have players out there in the NFL who have more sacks than almost certain teams, including the Atlanta Falcons, and it goes into the consistency of having a pass rush, right? So that's one thing. Now, here's a question to everybody. If you want to answer this question on the YouTube channel as you watch it live or tomorrow or next week, will he play actual on the edge or will he be used as a linebacker or both? What do you think? Okay, answer that question. Now, I have the depth chart pulled up. I can tell you what they got on there, at least one of the depth charts. So it's very interesting. We all know he can be coached. Now, why do I say that? And this is something that my co-host had mentioned a couple of weeks ago, that with UGA, the immense amount of talent that they have on that team, you're never going to really have someone like stand out necessarily with sack numbers because you just have so many players getting sacks. So it's kind of broken up. But the ability itself is there because, again, the UGA Bulldogs have something called depth too, right? So that's going to be something that I think is going to be quite noticeable. Again, we know he's going to want to win because he's used to winning, right? He's going to want to win an NFL championship because why? That was the goal in UGA. Winning a national championship is national championship or bust, right? And not just winning a few games during the season and being satisfied with it. Okay. Effort goes a long way. I don't think we're ever going to have to worry about effort with Jalen Walker, right? So just having someone like that, whether it be the linebacker position, one of the a hybrid position that they might create, he's running off the edge every single time. We know that every snap he's going to go after the quarterback. He's either going to hit him, knock the ball out of his hands, or sack him. Not pretend to sack him, not hopefully sack him, not almost kind of sort of woulda coulda sacked him. He's going to the ground. It's going to be huge right there. So as I said before, if you got a chance to watch the live show last week, you got to see a live reaction of Jordan Jackson, my co-host, saying, hey, Chris, he interrupted me. I forgot what I was saying. He was like, hey, we got some breaking news here. I was like, oh, really? Shadur Sanders finally got drafted, huh? No. And it was a few picks after the Jalen Walker pick. So I want to say it was maybe the 20th. I should have looked and seen which one it was. But I figured it was something like that. But then when he said, well, no, the Falcons have traded this pick to get him back into the first round. And I glanced at the tracker on the CBS thing. And sure enough, I saw Falcons were on the clock. So I was like, well, what are they about to do? This is interesting. This is an interesting, turn of events. Who could they be, going after? So in this case, here we go. Let's find out. So with the 26th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Atlanta Falcons decided to pick up James Pierce, edge from the University of Tennessee. And of course, gotta make sure I get them up here so everybody start getting familiar with these players. Although this is not the best one because he had his helmet on. I'll repeat that. That's not the best picture because I forgot he has his helmet on, so you can't see him. But I'm trying to make sure you at least numbers of some of these college players. Whether or not they get to keep their players on the NFL team, we'll find out very soon. But that's James Pierce. Now, with James Pierce, again, drafted in the first round. We got 2 first-round picks all of a sudden. So let's talk about James Pierce a little bit. So, as I talked about before, it was a surprising moment. Okay. But once you found out who it was like, oh, wow. Okay. And why do I say that? 17 and a half sacks his last 2 seasons. Okay. That's more than like 5 players on the Falcons. Okay. His one job is to go and get the quarterback. So now we got 2 people that their life's work, their life's goal is to go after the quarterback. Now, can they do it? We have to see how that translates on the field. And one thing I do mention is scheme has a lot to do with that, coaching, of course. But just by these 2 young men, their end of the bargain is going to be pretty easy because they're going to want to do this. They're going to want to prove that they are worth the first round draft picks that were used to obtain them in the first place. So it's not one of those situations where there's like a chip on their shoulder necessarily, right? It's just that they're in the NFL, they're playing in the South. Remember, both of these players are SEC players on the same team. I won't say there's a rivalry there. Tennessee don't really beat Georgia to be a rivalry or anything, right? But they're on the same team, so they're going to be a competitive spirit there. Hey, I'm gonna get more sacks than you this year. Isn't that exciting to anybody? All right. So keep that in mind as far as Mr. James Pierce. So I'm excited about that. And again, 17 and a half sacks the past 2 seasons. Yeah, he's gonna be able to do some stuff for us. So that's our first round. Okay. So we don't have a pick again for a little bit. It's going to be pick 96. So let's go ahead and find out who he ended up picking. So with the 96th pick of the NFL Draft 2025, the Atlanta Falcons selected Xavier Watts, safety from Notre Dame. Now, for a lot of people, there were the pundits out there where if any of the picks was going to make you scratch your head, here's where some of them wanted to do it. But again, for us Falcons fans, we knew better. Okay. Because at the end of the day, besides the pass rush, again, pass defense. Can we get anybody to catch a ball on the defensive side? Can we get anybody to have a pass defense on a pass, actually? Can we get anybody to make a tackle in the open field, right? All these things have been continuous issues for, again, a decade plus. AJ Terrell is one person. Bates is one person. Okay. It's time to be able to have multiple people in the cornerback and safety room to have skills and abilities to actually affect the game. And I think we're going towards that now, finally. Again, remember, we went back to back 2 picks in a row for the same position. That's not common, but the Falcons pulled it off. So let's talk about Xavier Watts for a little bit. Now, in Notre Dame, he played safety. Oh, by the way, let's get his image up real quick. There's Mr. Xavier Watts right there. Hopefully y'all can hear me. That was Xavier Watts in case you couldn't hear me. 13 interceptions the past 2 seasons. So similar to James Pierce, who has 17 and a half sacks the past 2 seasons in college. Xavier Watts, 13 interceptions the past 2 seasons, the most of any college football player. That is not a fluke. He was a 2-time team captain as well. That is not a fluke. So whether or not he actually plays safety all the time, maybe a little cornerback in certain situations, this is someone who cares about taking the ball from people. And again, the Atlanta Falcons were last in interceptions. The last time the Falcons were top 10 in interceptions was 2018. Outside of that, we have been at the bottom in that particular stat. And again, how do you win a lot of close ball games? By getting that turnover and then also being able to score. Don't forget that part. We'll get into that again later on when we're talking about the depth chart a little bit. Okay. So I'm excited about that particular pick also because of the nature of what Notre Dame is as far as a program, their head coach, what they're trying to do there, what they have been doing, and what this young man Xavier Watts has done on the field. It proves he's ready to go. And again, a lot of this is going to be scheme and coaching. Okay. But he had great scheme and coaching to help him get 13 interceptions last year, plus his own personal skill and ability. So I'm excited about Mr. Xavier Watts indeed. As I mentioned, we went back to back for the same position twice in the same draft. So this particular pick was a little bit lower down in the draft. But again, it's all about finding these players who can really help you, these quality players that can really actually affect what goes on the field. So for our next pick, let's find out who we got. So with the 118th pick in the NFL Draft 2025, the Atlanta Falcons select Billy Bowman Jr., cornerback out of Oklahoma. And I apologize if I misspelled his name. Again, it's been a long day. So, in fact, though, let's do this. Let me put his picture up real quick. Mr. Billy Bowman. And I'm going to adjust this in real time because I can do that. Let's do that now. Said it's been a long day. I have to apologize. Can't fake the funk on how this day hit me today, but I'm here. So, cornerback, Oklahoma, another great program when it comes to college football. Now, let's talk about this particular player a little bit. 118th pick. Again, I mentioned before, depth has been an issue for the Atlanta Falcons for a long time at the cornerback position. AJ has been the best corner we have. He's been here for 5 seasons plus now, right? But we have not had anybody step up as a number two, really. We supposedly do these experiments with people or whatever. It's never worked out, right? So is this the season where we have somebody really step up as a number two, and we actually have two cornerbacks going against the best two wide receivers on the other side, right? Now, Clark Phillips, shown some signs. He has, I'm tired, y'all. He has shown some signs as a cover corner at the nickel primarily, right? So more than likely, Bowman, with his abilities, things of that nature, he might compete for that particular position. At Oklahoma, he had 11 interceptions, 3 pick sixes. He also tackles. Something else, again, we desperately need, just on the run alone, if we just had a few less missed tackles, how many more games we have won last year? Again, the Atlanta Falcons lost 7 games, folks, by 10 points or less. Actually, I think it's 7 points or less. Okay. And then we lost some games where we scored 25 points or more. So it's not just because we couldn't score. It was the times we could score and still lost those games too. And most of it is because we couldn't tackle someone or we couldn't get to the quarterback. Wins and losses are just that fleeting for the Atlanta Falcons. Maybe this is the year they finally say, okay, we're going to fix all these issues, right? So our last pick of the draft. Now, remember, we did have 2 7th-round picks, but because of the trade, we did lose one of those. But guess what we did, though? We still managed to figure out how to get some value and depth out of this pick. So let's see who we picked for the last pick of the 2025 draft. Now, sounds pretty good, don't it? So with the last pick, 218 for the Atlanta Falcons, that is, for 2025. The Atlanta Falcons picked Jack Nelson, tackle out of Wisconsin. Let me go ahead and put his image up real quick. There you go. Hopefully, y'all can hear me. That's Jack. Mr. Jack Nelson, the newest Atlanta Falcon. That was, if you didn't get to hear when I put the picture up, that was Jack Nelson out of Wisconsin. Now, some people again will be like, well, they were concentrating on defense. Why didn't they just get somebody else on defense again? Well, interesting. We do need some depth on the offensive line as well. And this particular player has played multiple positions. And again, going into scheme and coaching, he might be able to pan out to give us some depth. Okay. If anything, definitely the special teams. But I think in his case, I think they're looking at him as a depth piece. And I'm going to talk about that when we get to the depth chart in a little bit after I talk about the undrafted free agents. So let's talk about Mr. Jack Nelson for a minute. So he was a 4-year starter in Wisconsin, played all 51 games, started 50 of them. So that goes into his leadership and his ability a little bit. You don't just start all those games and just be terrible, right? He mostly played left tackle, but again, he played all across the line, which means he's going to be versatile. He's 6'7", 315 pounds. So he's not a small guy, Now, coaching him up, again, depth, possibly starts when needed. Again, injuries, right? So I like the pick. I think it was a pick of need. Again, we only had these 5 picks after the trades, that is. I think we did a really good job. Myself, I say we got an A. We address needs. When you address needs, how can you be a C? You see what I'm saying? How? I don't understand it, right? So again, that was our draft, all the rounds of the draft for the Atlanta Falcons. And this is just a reminder, this is the Atlanta Falcons post-draft show. And again, unfortunately, my co-host wasn't able to make it tonight. And tonight, again, I apologize. It's not the greatest night for me to do a show, but I already scheduled it. Here it is, okay? We might redo it again. We'll see what happens. All right, so as I mentioned, we did have some other moves. The Atlanta Falcons did also sign 11 undrafted free agents, that is. Some of the notable ones for me, and you can let us know what undrafted free agents you think will be great. You can message us here on the IMTM Worldwide Radio YouTube channel as you watch the show whenever it is you get a chance to watch it, or the Facebook page, IMTN Worldwide Radio on Facebook. But Kobe Bryant, definitely. He said there's not 26 better cornerbacks than me. That's a statement. Now, people can say, that's kind of like Pat McKinley. We know how that turned out, right? I think it's going to be a little bit different. Kobe Bryant had 13 interceptions in his 4 years, including 4 each the previous 2 seasons. Okay, so I think he can. Walk the walk. Okay, Nick Nash, wide receiver out of San Jose State, 2024. He led all of college football with 16 touchdowns. He was second with 1,382 yards. He was tied for second with 104 receptions. This is somebody who might get some playing time. Okay, we're going to talk about that in the depth chart in a second. By the way, he also played a little quarterback too. So there might be some trick plays in the waiting, for this young man. You never know. Kind of like a old boy over in New Orleans. Can't remember his name right now. But they might use him in the same way. Another one, this is going to be a real interesting signing. Simeon Barlow Jr. out of Miami, University of Miami. He's a defensive tackle. He doesn't have size, technically, to be a defensive tackle in the NFL. However, he has some strength. He has some power. Run stopping could be a situation he could be used in on a specialized situation. Also possible pass rusher because he does have some moves. Is just that he's real light. Now, getting into camp and things of that nature, off season, strength and all that, he might gain 30, 40 pounds. You never know. Because I think he's like 282, something like that. And you already know how I feel about undersized people on the line. We've done that for a decade plus. Look where it's gotten us, right? So we'll see how he might be able to be used. And if anything, there's always the special teams. Now, let's take a look at the depth chart as we get ready to almost close out the show. This was not going to be a long show if I could help it. So let's go over. Now, this depth chart is courtesy of ourlads.com, so go check them out. And I'll start with the offense first. Okay. Let's see. So I'm going to just go through these a little bit. So at wide receiver, here's our depth at wide receiver. We got Drake London, obviously. You got Darnell Mooney. You have Ray McLeod currently. Got Casey Washington, Chris Blair, and Kadero Hodge. Then your third string, you got Philip Dorsett, Dylan Drummond, and Jamal Agnew listed. And then your fourth string, you have Nick Nash. Now, I think Nick Nash might get bumped up depending on how he performs this offseason. Now, on the tight end side, you got Kyle Pitts, Charlie Warner, obviously. You got about 3 others. Now, one of note that everybody is going to have to say something about, Felipe Franks is your 4th string tight end currently. Again, not sure why he was signed. It's a mystery to me. Don't understand it. But he's an Atlanta Falcon. We'll see if he stays on the team. Now, on the offensive line, of course, you got Jake Matthews, never going anywhere. He's going to play until he's 90. Matthew Bergeron, just like his other family members, obviously. Matthew Bergeron, Ryan Nuzzo, our center currently, Chris Lindstrom, and Caleb McGarrett. Now, on the second string, you got Storm, Elijah, Gwen, Kyle Hinton, and Brandon Parker. And on the third string already, you have Jack Nelson. So isn't that interesting that he's already listed as third string? So we'll see how that pans out going into the offseason, training camp, and everything. Running backs. We got Bijan and Tyler, obviously. You got Jace McKellen, Carlos Washington Jr. Now, does Jace get any real snaps this season? I don't know. Again, it goes back into the offensive scheme and coaching, things of that nature. How are they going to use Tyler and Bijan this year? Hopefully a little bit better than last year, because we should have been able to get more out of those 2 running backs, and we just didn't. It was almost like we were scared to use our running backs. It was kind of embarrassing. So that's the offensive side on the depth chart per ourlads.com. Go check them out. Now, on the defensive side, here's where it gets really interesting. Edge. Well, I'm gonna just do the first string starters, how they have it set up as of right now. These are a mix of your defensive tackles and your edge rushers, your linebackers, cornerbacks, safeties, everybody. Okay. Morgan Fox, Rook Arroyo, Yamada, Jalen Walker, first string starter. Okay. Um, Troy Anderson, Caden Ellis, James Pierce Jr. Those are two of our first round draft picks right there, y'all. Mike Hughes, cornerback, Jesse Bates, safety, Xavier Watts, the other safety, first string. That's three starters from our draft picks right there. This is the depth chart from our last. It's not official, but I think it's just interesting to point that out, that they believe that three of our picks so far are starting material. Of course, you got AJ, and then you got D. Alford. Now, the second string, you got players like Contavious Street. Y'all know him, Taquan Graham. AK is still there. Devon Diablo, Leonard Floyd, J.D. Patron, right? DeMarco Helms. I like DeMarco. Clark Phillips, of course. And then second string, Billy Bowman Jr. So basically, on defense, your four picks are either first or second string right off the jump. I think that's pretty good. Now, third string on defense, you got players like Kobe Bryant, who's going to get a chance. You got Kevin King still here, Natron Brooks, D'Angelo Malone, Braylon Trice, and Brandon Dorless. Now, remember, they didn't play last year. Okay, so it's going to be interesting. What can they make of an opportunity this offseason and training camp to prove that it was worth getting them last year in the draft, right? And that's about it as far as just notable players on those strings. There's, of course, special teams as of the moment. Right now, Younghoe Koo still our kicker. Okay, Bradley is our punter. You got Ray as our punt returner and kickoff returner. Okay, as of the moment. Second string on those, you got Jamal Agnew as a possible punt return, and then you got Billy Bowman Jr. Okay, in there at third string. So that's interesting, just a little bit. So that's the 2025 draft for the Atlanta Falcons. I think they did a great job again with their picks and their choices, their options that they created for themselves. I think it's a huge deal that they made that move to pick up the second player in the draft. I want to say I don't want to guarantee anything just yet, okay? Because again, it's still a matter of the proof is in the pudding and all that all the cliches and stuff like that. But just the moves themselves makes you believe that winning is now important. And unfortunately, too many moves, too many decisions over a long period of time prove to us as fans that winning might not be that big of a deal. How can it be? And you want fans to come and pay for the tickets, but look at what you're doing. How are you saying these things in front of people in their face, and you want them to buy tickets, but here are the moves you're making, and it's just backwards, right? And you look at all the other franchises that have Super Bowls, multiple Super Bowls, multiple NFC, AFC championships, right? Even division titles to an extent. Like when you win the division title, almost all the time you're in the playoffs, right? It's a guarantee almost. It used to be anyway, right? But the Falcons don't have that history. Remember, it was years, a couple of decades went by before the Falcons even had back-to-back winning seasons. Y'all remember that? It's bad. Okay. So that's another reason I say maybe this will be the turning point. Maybe this will be the turning point to say the Atlanta Falcons are finally going to quit wasting time and say, let's go after it. Let's put something together. So hopefully you enjoyed the show. I know, again, this is not going to be the best show of all time, but I did what I wanted as far as just the information goes. And again, hopefully my co-host is cool. I don't, like I said, I did reach out to him. He wasn't able to make it. Like I said, this was not my best day to do a show, but I had planned it. It was scheduled. I wanted to knock it out. So I'm about to end it now. But again, whenever you do watch this, the questions I put up earlier and answer them on the YouTube page or the Facebook page on IMTN Worldwide Radio page on Facebook. And again, subscribe to the IMTN Worldwide Radio YouTube page right here that you're watching now, later, next week, whenever, and answer those questions. And go back and watch the first show, draft show, just to see our preview and see who we decided, who we thought we were going to get. I only got Jalen Walker right. Okay, that was one of my picks that I thought we were going to get, and we got him. So that being said, again, hopefully you enjoyed. I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. I'm talking like Jordan is here, but we're gonna go ahead and get out of here for this evening. Again, hopefully y'all enjoyed. Again, the Atlanta Falcons get an A from me. They had a great draft because they address actual needs. And we got people out there believing that these picks are ready to go now. That's not going to be. If all these guys actually start or come in and get a lot of snaps right off the bat, man, that's going to be. Well, I guess you could look at it two ways though. Either the guys that are ahead of them are that bad, or these guys are really good and they deserve to start. And that also increases our depth even more. If these young kids can start, that means we got veterans coming off the bench and helping out, right? So either way, it's going to be good, all right? That being said, I'm going to get out of here. Again, don't forget, subscribe to the IMTN Worldwide Radio YouTube page. You can also follow on IMTN Worldwide Radio on Facebook. And we'll talk to you again real soon. By the way, I do have more game review shows for the Atlanta Hawks coming up. The Atlanta Dream season is about to start, so we'll be talking Atlanta Dream basketball very soon as well. We're going to keep talking Atlanta United soccer as well. Don't forget about that. The Atlanta Hawks finally got some kind of a postseason accolade. Dyson Daniels, most improved, should have been defensive player of the year and most improved, but at least he got one of the two. So that's pretty cool. Hopefully they get Trae Young All NBA because he deserved it. He played it. He's done stuff that no other point guard has. To not have him All NBA after doing what no one since Nash and Stockton has done in 20 plus years will be crazy, but we'll see what happens. That being said, guys, I'll talk to y'all later. Y'all take care. Peace.
Dribble, pass, throw, catch, hit, slide, grab, respect, around.